Okay, hello everybody, and welcome again to the 5 Myths of Digital Fundraising webinar today. We're excited that you guys have joined us. I did want to give it about a minute or so for some people to have time to log on, and it looks like we've got a good representation from everybody, so we'll go ahead and kick it off. So just quickly for the agenda today, we will go through a brief introduction and some details on webinar logistics and how they work around here in case you're new to one of our webinars. If you are new, welcome, and if you're a returning attendee, welcome to you too. We'll give you a very brief overview of Kimbia and what we do and how we focus on online fundraising solutions. Then we'll dive into the 5 Myths of Digital Fundraising and open it up to the Q&A. My name is Mary Ann Gunn. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Kimbia, and you are welcome to follow me on Twitter at @MAGunn. We actually have Kelly Frost here too, who's maybe a little bit more shy and didn't throw her picture up on the slide, but she's managing the logistics and will also be managing the question and answer sessions for you guys. So if you haven't figured it out, everybody is muted upon entry into the webinar, and that's just really designed to remove background noise from people that don't have it on mute or have some static on their lines. So if you want to engage, please use the chat box if you're having any issues with hearing or any technical issues, but definitely if you have a question. We might type in and respond to some answers to some questions throughout the webinar if it makes sense to. If not, we'll hold them for the end. We think the presentation will take about 40 minutes total. I tend to go pretty quickly through these, so we may end up a little bit shy of the 40 minutes. But our goal is to leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And if we don't have enough time, or for some reason there's a technical question that we need a little help finding an answer to, we will definitely get right back to you and follow up following the webinar. And if you would like, you can email me directly with any feedback, questions, or suggestions from the webinar, or any tips and tricks or anything else that you want to share. So quickly about Kimbia, probably the most important thing to focus on if you're not familiar with Kimbia is that we are best of breed, what we call it, online fundraising solution provider. We focus a lot on the donor experience. Our Chief Technology Officer often says that online fundraising is a really interesting role, whether you're doing online fundraising or you're supporting it like we do, and that it's probably the most difficult transaction you can do in the e-commerce world, because you're really relying on people that support your mission, and most of the time they're not getting something back in the mail, they're not really purchasing something, and we try really hard to make sure those donor experiences are fully supported, seamless, frictionless, and rapid and easy. We're enterprise grade, so we're scalable and flexible. We've deployed solutions for some of the largest nonprofits and really built our platform based on that. We're a complete online fundraising solution, which we'll get into, and we are a true software as a service model in that it's not like we were developed as an on-premise solution and have tried to navigate and move into a hosted or cloud environment, but we were built around a SaaS model, which really means that we can offer continuous innovation in the platform without disruption to our customers, which enables a focus on the actual fundraising results and not necessarily worrying too much about the technology on a day-to-day basis. And when I say complete online fundraising solution, we've got a lot of flexibility in our platform. Really common applications would be annual or everyday giving, and the list of things here. We do have a really great customized services strategy and best practices team that help our clients through a lot of different solutions. So whether you're looking at one of these more traditional campaigns or you're trying to think outside the box and do something different, there are a lot of cool things we can do within our platform that you can chat with us about. So now let's get on to the 5 myths. If you guys haven't seen a lot of these stats, they come from different resources that we gather up from time to time, but really there's a lot of momentum in the world of digital online fundraising. Charitable giving across the U.S. is still continuing to increase, which is great, but if you look at how much online giving is increasing in comparison to charitable giving, we're seeing a whole lot more traction and adoption within the whole online or digital fundraising world. But even if you dig into that a little bit further, mobile is really growing as a donation platform, and people are really getting used to mobile optimized sites. If, for example, somebody reads email on their smartphone and they try to click onto a site, if it's not optimized for mobile, they're really likely to leave. And so mobile technologies, mobile-enabled technologies are really important. And then we're also seeing an explosion in solutions like peer-to-peer and DIY fundraising, really in recruiting first-time donors through networking and the ability to spread your mission socially. So really, we launched into this 5 Myths ebook because of all of the information that's out there. I mean, it's no wonder everybody's talking about what's going on with digital fundraising, but I think really digging into what we believe is possible and capable versus maybe what you might hear from some other people gives us an opportunity to clear some things up and at least let you know how we approach it. So diving into myth number 1 on donation forms are extremely difficult. They can take hours to create and deploy, and they don't offer a lot of customization capabilities. I can't believe how often we hear this from some of our customers or prospects, or even just people that we meet in the industry. I was at an event and spoke with a woman that was with a large food bank that was talking about how they've been trying to deploy 4 new forms or something like that with the solution that they were using, and the tab was running up into the thousands of dollars. They hadn't been able to complete the project. They couldn't get the data out of it that they wanted to. They were having to tap into IT to get the information that they wanted, and we don't really think that's acceptable, and that there needs to be more flexibility for the donation form. And while there's a lot of technology and capabilities that live behind the form, if you think about the donation form as the front end of any kind of online fundraising campaign, you really need it to be easily deployed, geared towards the donor, capable of supporting multiple different programs or campaigns that you want to run, and give you the flexibility to do things like A/B testing, for example, which we'll get into. So when we engage with customers for a lot of different online fundraising campaigns, we've seen them report as much as a 90% drop in campaign launch time. And for a lot of reasons around that donation experience, we've built some capabilities that help distribute, share, and kind of replicate forms even once they're created. So if you look at the part distributable across virtually any website, I kind of look at that as thinking about the ability of a donation form or campaign to actually go viral. With our form capabilities, they're not only easy to copy and edit and replicate, so when you put time and energy into one form, you can copy that and reuse it and just make some changes to customize it. You don't have to start from scratch. But it's customizable for unique applications and specifically the branded site. So the picture that you're looking at on the right is from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee that was trying to work on, they were trying to do this flood relief program, and they were really the best people to manage that event. But when they wanted to really extend their reach and their audience and their visibility to gather donations for the flood relief program, they took the form that they'd made and they made it accessible by a whole lot of media partners and other organizations within the industry. And so that enabled them to, A, extend their reach and their brand awareness, but we could also see how the forms can adopt the brand of a bunch of different sites, for one thing. And the other one is that I think it really helps engage people if you want to share the form across different sites, that you can actually support your mission without asking them to redirect potential donors from their site over to your site, and that partners can just process the donations right there on their sites. And there's a whole lot more behind that, but really the main point in clearing up myth number 1 is that donation forms don't have to be difficult. You should be able to create them fairly rapidly, especially after some of the upfront work goes into getting a lot of your preference set up the way that you want to, and then you should be able to do a lot of creative things to engage with more donors. So, for example, WGBH is a longtime client of Kimbia's, and they were able to grow their online donations 3 times because they were able to use this form flexibility to create more of a contextual giving environment, and they could support different causes with specific landing pages that integrated their on-air and radio messages online a little bit better. And for example, they were able to grow the radio donations online from 10% to 45%. And it really helped improve the donor experience and engagement because people were able to engage with the content of the programs and support the content of the programs that mattered the most to them. So they increased TV supporters as well. The radio donations made online really increased, which streamlined a lot of processes for them. And then I took some snippets of their actual supporting site. You could see where they had different buttons for what kind of content they wanted the donors to be able to engage with and support, which really helped the long-term engagement and the value of their donors, but they got a lot of positive feedback from the program as well. A little bit of quote from WGBH on that program. And then myth number 2, we can dive into that different campaign types such as peer-to-peer and crowdfunding events require different solutions in addition to whatever you use for everyday giving. In fact, we actually think that if you look at a lot of the point solutions that may do one thing really well, may do 2 things really well, but it doesn't operate in the same environment as maybe your everyday giving platform, that means your fundraising campaigns are then fragmented, they're not integrated, they're not that easy to report on, and it is possible to run a lot of different campaigns from peer-to-peer to everyday giving to event registration to crowdfunding and see the results of those campaigns in one place and have customizable reports that come from one platform. And really, regardless of what kind of campaign you're doing, that unified reporting environment can help in a lot of ways. And one of them is really just reducing manual input that drains resources and time and creates errors and also enables the optimization of campaigns, which we'll also move into going forward. And a great example of this one is YMCA of Austin, and increased their revenue significantly after they chose to do everyday giving. They decided to add on the peer-to-peer elements that can be offered. And they wanted to be able to create an environment where they could have individual fundraising pages that were customizable by their supporters. They wanted real-time reporting to see the effectiveness of the peer-to-peer and the everyday giving that was going on. And they wanted to be ensured that they could support high-volume traffic depending on what kind of event they were doing. And you can see the results. They raised 62% more funds online year over year. And really, if you look at just the ability to integrate peer-to-peer into your regular campaigns, we've seen some data that says that a donation solicitation from someone that a potential donor knows is 300 times more effective than a regular solicitation. And this is a really cool campaign that the YMCA did, that they use their supporters in the annual peer-to-peer campaign that helps them really acquire new donors and raise more money and also be able to track and measure the effectiveness of those programs. And when we were talking about this particular solution and we were trying to find a representative example of a customer that was doing it really well, Kelly actually mentioned that Back on My Feet had a really cool story for peer-to-peer fundraising as well. They started looking at online fundraising when they only had a couple of chapters, and then over time and growing, they have grown into 12 chapters, and they needed one single platform to better manage all the campaigns that they were doing, and they saw a lot of really cool results on that, and they're a neat organization that's grown pretty quickly. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what they're doing, you can download the Back on My Feet case study from our website. And then moving into myth number 3 is that A/B testing is too difficult, time-consuming, and cumbersome, because really being able to create and deploy the forms that you need to support a testing strategy is too hard and takes too much time, or you don't have people internally that can do that. Because of the capabilities of A/B testing, we've had customers report an average of a 30% improved conversion rate. If you start with myth number 1 and think about the flexibility of forms and then move into what that flexibility can enable you to do, A/B testing can be as simple as cutting and pasting and making a change if you want to test something pretty quickly. If you want something that's more complex, you can do multivariate testing that enables you to test 3 or 4 or 5 different elements at one time. And then capabilities like integration to CRM can supercharge the data that's available in reports from the data that's already in your CRM system to the data that is added based on the interactions that are happening on the online fundraising perspective. And there's a lot of information that we can go into here. We recently rolled out an ebook called Fundraise Smarter, Not Harder, that has some tips and tricks in it about how you can optimize programs and how you can make A/B testing a little simpler within your organization, no matter what kind of solution you're using. It talks about some free tools that are out there and has some other interesting tidbits. So you can go into the resources section of our website and download that as well. And a really good example of A/B testing would be CaringBridge. They are an online-based site that has a lot of tribute pages and things like that, and people that will come to donate to somebody that they know for a particular cause. And they wanted to be able to take advantage of that online traffic and improve their conversion rates. And when you look at optimizing any kind of campaign, it's great to be able to manage and produce multiple forms, because you can really only test one thing at a time. You might want to test the time of day that you send out an email, for example. You might want to test the color or an ask array of dollar amounts to how many steps does it take to donate, or how many fields do you have within the form, or what kind of brand or contextual giving images do we have? Is there something that resonates more with one particular audience than another one? And there are a whole lot of things that you can do, but you have to have the flexibility within your environment to do that. And CaringBridge got really familiar with the technology, and they actually worked with an outsourced firm too that specializes in this campaign optimization for nonprofits, and saw an 85% increase in their donor conversion rates. They saw a lot of really cool results outside of that, but I think, the main point is that they really understood how to create conversion rates within their page and really take advantage of the website traffic that they were already having. And there are some cool tips about that in our Fundraise Smarter, Not Harder ebook too. And moving on to myth number 4, and that crowdfunding events are risky, and the idea of an online platform for them is sometimes scary for people because these events can be large scale and they can require a lot of different resources. One of the things that's interesting about crowdfunding, whether you want to call it a crowdfunding event or you want to call it a Giving Day event, I think there's a lot of buzz in the industry that's confusing for people. And really, when we think about a Giving Day event or a crowdfunding event for a nonprofit or a higher education institution, it's often different than somebody that would just go do an online crowdfunding event only and just manage that online. It often is a combination of an in-person event or some in-person programs on top of some pre-event donation capabilities, on top of live events on the day of, on top of offline donations that need to be processed because of the evolution of how crowdfunding events or giving days have come to be really successful over time. And so even when we look at that really complex environment, we know, because we've done it a bunch, that crowdfunding is proven to recruit and reactivate donors of all demographics, not just younger donors, not just one type of donors, not just older donors, not just donors that are already engaged. That it's got a really great networking and kind of viral aspect to it that can really help increase donor acquisition to help with ongoing fundraising efforts, for one. We run a lot of high transaction volumes events for our clients, and one of the things that's important for us to recognize is that we actually run a large giving event that happens this year of May 3rd. So if you aren't familiar with Give Local America, check out the hashtag #IGiveLocal on Twitter, or check us out on Facebook, because we'll have a new one this year. Last year we raised $68 million, and we have more than 13,000 nonprofits signed up. We have community foundations across the nation signed up, and learning to manage that complexity and that transaction volume has become a specialty for us, and we actually are our own biggest customer in that regard. And then some other examples of some crowdfunding events: American Red Cross. Some repeat events last year was $2.5 million. Columbia University always does a really good job. And I think it's important to point out here too that it's not really just about a platform when you look at a crowdfunding event. It's about how do you approach it, how do you plan for it, and what kind of resources are available to help you drive success, especially if you're just launching into a crowdfunding event or haven't done one or had done one in the past that maybe you didn't see the results of that you wanted to. And a really good example for this, and one of the points that this makes is crowdfunding or giving day events can have a lot of different benefits across any kind of organization. In this particular example, the Big Give for Autism, from the Autism Society, they launched their first event last year, and they had a lot of things that they really wanted to achieve, but one of the things that they really wanted to achieve was improved social awareness and better engagement and better trust between the national chapter and a lot of the affiliates that supported their mission as well. And so while raising money was a big part of it for them, they had a lot of other goals. And so as a tip that we like to talk about is, if you want to dive into crowdfunding, it's really important to kind of assess what your main goal is there and focus on that. And we've seen some organizations start with a main goal, and then each year as their programs grow, they add new goals. It could start off as engaging students within one place, and next year it could increasing international donations or particular sets of alumni, and particularly in the higher ed environment. So in this particular case, the Big Give for Autism really helps them to raise money, because it was the second biggest giving day that they'd ever have outside of December 31st, but it also helps them engage new donors. So 35% of their donors self-reported as new, which gives them more long-term and valuable opportunities to grow their crowdfunding event over time. And they also connected across channels, with 60% of their event traffic coming from a mobile device. They saw really great social growth and social awareness as a result. And they had a challenge that they were trying to overcome, which really was people that are affected by autism spectrum disorder know who the Autism Society is, because they're a great resource for families and friends and other people that are impacted, but they're not always the go-to for donors that are just interested in supporting the cause. So having this crowdfunding event enabled them to spread awareness of their cause and also help their affiliate chapters do the same thing. And it was their first one that they did. So it kind of goes back to the myth that crowdfunding events have to be complex and really difficult, or they can't scale. So I think this is a really good example of achieving not only one goal, but multiple goals by even just through a first-time giving event. And this is just a fun fact we talk about a lot. One of the things, too, if you launch into a crowdfunding event or giving day, is that I think, like a lot of other things that you really put some time and energy into, crowdfunding events have proven to grow year over year because of the awareness and the engagement that it creates and the enthusiasm and excitement it creates around a particular event. So the example on the left is the Community Foundations of Texas, who continue to, as I mentioned earlier, create new goals and focus on new things that they want to be able to do to impact their communities. And as a result, they see excellent year-over-year growth. If you just look specifically at Give Local America from 2014 to 2015, we saw significant growth, and we really have our eyes on a great year this year. So we're looking forward to reporting back about that. And then myth number 5, digital fundraising strategies really only engage younger donors. This is actually a really interesting one to me, because I've seen that question come through to me and to other people and submitted online here, and that there's sort of a misconception that if you want to engage online, you're really only going to attract a millennial donor, and you can't engage with donors that may be of an older demographic or some other demographic that might not seem like it's the logical one that you would hit with a crowdfunding event or online fundraising strategy. So in 2014, we did in 2015, we did Identifying the Crowdfunding Donor Report, which really looked across the demographics of people that engaged in online fundraising via our platform. And if you want to, you can go to our website and download that. We really hope to get it updated at the end of 2015 to show some new results, but we find them to be pretty consistent. And not only have we been able to show that online you can engage across all kinds of different demographics, but they're ideal donors within those demographics. I think in the study that we did, nearly 70% owned a home, nearly 50% had a net worth pretty high. And then we've also heard some interesting tidbits about how crowdfunding events can help excite and engage major donors. So outside of just the age demographic, people that are already engaged can really get behind that event and help to drive its success. And a really good example of this would be KLRU. They made a leap. They were doing traditional on-air pledge drives for years and years, and they moved over to an online fundraising event that was sort of in the same restricted period of time that a normal pledge drive would happen. And their main goal was to be able to reduce the disruption of programming while offering their supporters a high-value experience and ease to engage with them and donate to a program of their choice. So not only did they create a peer-to-peer program as part of that, but they also engaged with their core donor base of over 60. And they felt really good about that because they were worried that they were going to lose a portion of their strongest supporters online, and they proved that that didn't happen at all. And then they also acquired 28% new donors as a result of that campaign, and it's seen a lot of benefit doing that. And as a result, they beat their fundraising expectations by nearly 90%. So I told you sometimes I tend to get through these pretty quickly. We're just at about 30 minutes. So if I finish in 30 minutes, that probably does mean we might have missed a couple things. So if you guys have questions, we welcome them now. One of the things that I forgot to mention also is that on May 17th, we will be doing a webinar with the Autism Society to give you guys a little bit more information on the strategies and tips and tricks that they went through during their first event. So please feel free to visit our website if you'd like to sign up for that one. And as always, if you can't make it, we'll follow up with the slides and the recording after the webinar.
All right, we do have one question. Okay, so the question is, while crowdfunding, when you're crowdfunding, is it just a matter of getting the word out and then seeing where the dominoes fall, or is it more about having a strategy to market?
I mean, I think, quite honestly, I think that it's absolutely about having a strategy, because I think you really have to be able to assess your environment, assess your donor base, and I think you need plenty of time to lead up to having that event. So we have a team here that engages our clients on the best practices approach to crowdfunding events, and they can program manage it and really make sure that navigating, whether it's a minor complexity or a lot of complexity, really navigating that environment to help maximize success and make sure that things are moving along as they need to, and we can help with strategies along securing matching funds and gifts and prizes and other things to drive success. One of the things I talked about in one of our last webinars that is fun to go look at was the University of Maryland Giving Day, where their primary goal was to engage students on campus, and they did this really cool What's in the Box campaign. But the point of bringing that up is that took really engaging individual units across the university and getting creative, and we've got a team that helps do that. So I think it takes planning, and I think it takes strategy. And if you're obviously on your computer, and you can Google University of Maryland. They've got some cool videos of it.
Okay, the next question is, when you start crowdfunding, do you start local or do you start national?
I would go back to having a goal set when you start the crowdfunding event, I think the coolest thing about crowdfunding events is that they don't have to be geographically specific. But if you have a strong donor base locally, I think you'd absolutely want to engage them. And that also goes back to combining things like peer-to-peer programs with crowdfunding events so that you can leverage your local advocates to maybe help build a broader awareness nationwide. And you know, I also think that there's a lot of power in crowdfunding events that have an online and an offline component. So a local event with national reach could really help improve results too.
Yeah, and I'd like to add in that, this is Kelly, that if you are you know, thinking about starting crowdfunding and you want to do something around Giving Tuesday or something that kind of has a national presence, and you might be a local nonprofit that's focused in just one area, that combining your event with something that has a national attention behind it can be helpful. So that's something to look at as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely, that's a good point, Kelly. I would agree with that. You know, there's some really cool, you know, there's awareness days that happen all year that have either national or global visibility that I think are really good opportunities to spread awareness. That kind of just takes me back to a plug about Give Local America, though, because, you know, it's the only nationwide giving day that's focused at a community-driven level. So, and that's a really good example of people that, whether it's a community partner, a community foundation, or one lead within one community, they can evangelize and promote and support a whole group of nonprofits. And then under that nationwide umbrella of Give Local America, we can raise up the impact of those donor dollars and engagement in one day. So this is a really good example of local to national impact that might be fun to check out if you're interested in that.
And so we have another question here about the affiliate programs. So for example, back on my feet, how does that work where if you're an affiliate and you have a national chapter, are you able to keep the money locally, or does it have to go back to the national chapter?
Well, I think the beauty of that, thanks for the question, I think the capabilities for us, or how we look at it anyway, is that there's a lot of control built into how you might want to manage or not manage chapters and affiliates, meaning you could have a site that was set up where dollars went directly to every individual chapter and affiliate based on the dollars that they raised, or everything could go to the national chapter and it could be distributed as needed or as planned in the first place, all the way to how much branding control affiliates have and how much stuff that you want to have controlled at a national level. So there's so many different structures of affiliate networks that there's flexibility built in the platform, so that really a lot of that's up to you. And there's another question here about reporting with peer-to-peer and crowdfunding. I had talked a little bit about the ability to have unified reports for peer-to-peer and crowdfunding events, which might have been a little bit confusing for somebody. But I mean, really what it just means is that when you're running everything off of one platform, even if the execution of a particular campaign is different, we can customize reports. There's reporting available in the system that can tie all of those things together, so you can look in one place at the performance of different campaigns because everything is delivered out of one platform. And then obviously there's a link to CRM where other reporting already exists that can really help increase visibility into the impact of certain reports. And there's a video and a solution sheet on the website that talks a little bit about integration to Salesforce. So if you're interested in that and you are a Salesforce user, you can check that out. And thanks for the great job question. Appreciate that. And I think that's it for the questions right now, but like I said at the very beginning, you are more than welcome to email me at maryann@kenvia.com if you have any questions. And we will be sending the presentation out with the recording quickly, so you guys can have that or share it within your organizations as needed. Thanks so much for joining us today.